So good morning again, on those who have joined us on the call, and thank you again for joining myself and Adriano this morning. In advance of passing over to Adriano to deliver the real content of this webinar, it would be somewhat remiss of myself just to make an introduction to Nexus and also myself. So I am Chris Chandler. I am one of the pre-sales consultants here at Nexus Open Systems. So I work with both customers and our account managers in putting together appropriate solutions, so recommended services in and around those solutions. So provide you with an idea of our principal activities. I'm not going to go into every single one of them because I suspect that there's some people on the call that do already have a particular awareness of who Nexus are, and those who don't, we will be following up after the call. So if there's anything more specific you see on that list that you have an interest in, please feel free to ask. But obviously we are on the call today to discuss SharePoint. Nexus Open Systems are a Microsoft Gold partner, and by using SharePoint, which is considered the market leader for collaboration and management software, Nexus are able to offer our customers systems that enhance and optimize the way in which their businesses are run. These can be deployed on-premise, in the cloud, or as hybrid solutions, as we have done for customers ranging from 5 to 5,000 users. So, in terms of scale and our capability, we are really set up to enable and deliver these solutions to everybody. Another one I'd like to point out on that list is unified communications, and it sort of goes hand in hand with the SharePoint work that we do. We are a big Skype for Business house, so those of you that have Office 365 and may have what was known as Link, is now Skype for Business, but also interested in unified communications. That is really our go-to-market. It's something that we're a Gold Microsoft partner in and specialize in. So delivery of those solutions, if you are looking at SharePoint, I do strongly urge you to consider what you are doing with Skype for Business and talk to us about that. We are based in Exeter again. I'm just gonna go over this slide very briefly. We are based in Exeter in the southwest in 2 offices. It's where we keep our infrastructure team and software development team that would work on any requirements that you might have. As part of our locations, we do have training and testing centres. So we not only can we deliver these solutions, but we can train people upon them as well. So that's end user and technical training for that. And we have our demo capabilities here as well. So should you want to see any of the technologies in action, we are more than capable of delivering them here at our location Exeter. But of course, we can do those remotely as well. Should you have any requirement to do so. I touched on the fact that we are a Gold partner for SharePoint more specifically, and Skype for Business. Nexus as a company have 6 Gold and 12 Silver competencies, which really puts us in good stead when it comes to working with you and our customers on Microsoft solutions. As it says on the screen there, we are one of the top 1% of partners in not just in the UK world through our achieved competencies. So what that goes to show is really we do know what we're talking about, and could be a trusted advisor when it comes to Microsoft solutions, not just SharePoint, but on the broader product stack that they go to market with. Beyond obviously the Microsoft relationship we do have, we are partners in other areas. So we work with the likes of Dell, VMware, HP, IBM, really just to provide us a level of agnosticity, if that is actually a word, whether I've just made that up on the spot, but we don't like to necessarily pigeonhole ourselves when it comes to working with one vendor. We like to look at what the general market and what is available, so we're not just when it comes to supporting and working with people, we can make recommendations on specific case references or case requirements. I can touch on link store very basically. This is just to tie in with our Skype for Business and Link offering. We have online presence through Link Store, which does all the endpoint devices that are certified and optimized for Microsoft Link and Skype for Business. So again, if you are looking at that as a product set or something you're considering, please feel free to have a look at Link Store and all the products available on that site. Just to, whilst obviously you're attending this event this morning, we do have other events or another event more specifically pertaining to SharePoint coming up on the 23rd of July, and that is a forms and workflow workshop. Again, that will be delivered as online content, so another webinar. So if this interests you, we will be sending out invites, but please do free to feel free to let us know if you're interested in attending, and I can get an invite sent out in advance. At this point, I think I've rambled on far too much, and I'm sure you're here to listen to what Adriano's got to say rather than myself. So again, at this point, I would like to pass you over to Adriano to deliver the meat of the presentation this morning. I will be in the chat throughout, but what we're requesting is if you do have any questions, if you could save them towards the end for a Q&A session that we will be having. And also we have at the end of Adriano's presentation, we do have a bit of incentive for those of you that do already have SharePoint in place. So please do stay to the end to find out what that is. At this point, again, I'd like to thank you, and I will now pass over to Adriano.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adriano, and I'll be just carrying on with the SharePoint publishing webinar today. Thanks to Chris for actually giving us a bit of an intro over there. Today we'll be dealing with SharePoint publishing, and I'll kick it off right away. Just a bit about myself. I'm a SharePoint consultant for Nexus. I've been working with SharePoint for over 5 years now, and with Nexus, I'm involved with the complete end-to-end process. Where we deal with customers, pre-sales and demo work, planning the environments, deploying the actual environments itself, any sort of bespoke development, changes, branding, and then also after the fact, supporting our customers through. So if there's any queries that pop up afterwards, any support calls, and any future planning, we deal with that, and I'm involved in every single one of those steps. Onto publishing. What is publishing? Now with SharePoint, if you've worked with SharePoint before, then you obviously would have seen the option to have version control on documents where you create a minor version and then publish a major version. We're not covering that section today. Today we're looking at speaking about web content management. So we're going through publishing in the context of web WCM in SharePoint 2013 and how to use publishing sites to benefit your organization. This will include the major publishing components, introductions to the types of publishing sites that are available, and publishing methods that you can use for SharePoint 2013 publishing sites. I suppose we can get a counter running on how many times I say publishing through the webinar and get a prize out towards the end. Publishing. Web content management in SharePoint consists of features and functionality that you use to configure, customize, optimize, and publish site collections, sites, and pages within your actual environment and your tenant. When we talk about publishing sites in SharePoint 2013, we're referring to sites that use one or more of these features to author and deploy branded content and configuration files to the internet, intranet, and extranet sites of your site. I also will mention SharePoint 2013 throughout of it, but this is all available in Office 365's SharePoint Online, and all these publishing features are available for the Standard Edition and Enterprise Edition for 2013 Online, and I think for the E3 SKUs up in Office 365. But any sort of questioning about the which versions you require, we can pick that up at the end and actually let you know if your current version covers publishing. Now, just to give us a bit of an idea, I'll be going through the uses and benefits that publishing have, just as some general examples. You can use publishing to create a internet presence site. This is to provide information to customers and partners, investors, potential employees. For example, you might use an internet presence site to provide news articles or reviews that are tagged with metadata. And this allows you to categorize articles so that users can search or browse for information on your site. We can also create business sites. So this allows you to promote products and services that your company offers to customers. For example, you might use an internet business site to show off a catalog of products that is easy for users to browse and look through. It can be customized to the actual desktops or down to the actual device that people are using it, and make sure they get the correct information to the screens. Intranet sites, this is generally the most common use of SharePoint publishing. So we deploy a site that has got tightly managed navigation structure to provide authored content to intranet readers. An example here, we might use a published intranet site to provide human resources information to employees. Another example would be extranet sites. Here you can provide access to targeted content for remote employees, partners, and customers. You might use an extranet site to provide access to a knowledge base, so authored content tagged with metadata to categorize articles. So users can search or browse for specific information like troubleshooting articles, support issues, service packs, get all that information out and actually publish it in a structured way. The bottom line with the uses and benefits is that SharePoint Server publishing sites let you establish a branded online identity for your company or organization. The benefits of using SharePoint publishing sites include branded consistency by using custom design assets, such as master pages and page layouts, edited in HTML and automatically converted into SharePoint resources. Tight control over site navigation, decentralized content creation, which enables global contributed content, so people can create articles anywhere within your site, and it can be stored anywhere within your site, and then brought up and in one central location, a centralized publishing location. And then we can use a publishing workflow and approval to actually control how this does get out to the end product. And then it gives us also a really good way to have dynamic, customized sites. Now I'm going to go through the list of SharePoint publishing features. By default, some site collections and site templates have the publishing feature enabled. You can enable publishing features for other kinds of site collections and sites. Essentially, I think you would have seen a lot of these features if you've used SharePoint 2013 for collaboration sites. You'll see a lot of what I'm talking about would have popped up on your screen at some point or another. But generally, any sort of site collection can be turned into a publishing. You don't need to deploy a specific publishing site. If you have a team site, you can enable the features and use parts of them. Any sort of site can be converted into a publishing site. On the screen over here, we will be able to see the two major features that need to be turned on. The site collection feature, which is a SharePoint Server publishing infrastructure, that puts everything in place for the site collection itself. And then in the site features, there's a SharePoint Server publishing, which creates all the local libraries and pages and templates for that specific site itself. So you can have it switched on as a site collection and then have certain sites below there only using some of the features. It gives you that ability to control it a bit more. Special groups are groups such as approvers, designers, hierarchy managers. These groups are all created when you turn these features on, and they all have very specific features. Approvers will be able to approve any sort of pages or documents that are routed through to them either by the workflow or just by setting the approval content on. Designers have very specific permissions that allow them to design the site itself, adding in the page layouts and tools, providing the CSS files. And then you've got things like your hierarchy manager and quick deploy users, restricted readers. It all gives you that ability to manage who can do what within your SharePoint publishing features. Attached to those groups will be the actual permissions that control them. So the approve, design, manage, hierarchy, restricted read, and restricted interfaces for translation are all specific permissions that can be granted to other groups or get attached to that group itself. And these will become available to you when you enable those features. One of the really big features in our deployments, especially when a lot of customers actually have will use us to set up sites, we often employ publishing features to set up a navigation. SharePoint out the box comes with your top navigation and your quick launch on the left, but it's very rigid, can't be controlled. If we switch on the navigation features with publishing, we can now have a global navigation that's controlled either through metadata, so managed navigation. You can create a navigation structure in your metadata term store and use that to show your structure all over the place. Same with the current navigation. And you can also have structural navigation where it automatically displays all the navigation items underneath it. So it'll say this is a subsite, gives you a drop down for that. And then depending on how far you want to go, you can have further subsites or items available for people to use. So it becomes a lot easier to control, a lot easier to edit and manage. And it just generally looks a lot better than the out-of-the-box navigation. One of the big parts of publishing is how everything kind of fits together within itself. The master page is created, and you're able to create multiple different types of master pages. The master page acts as a wrapper, so you'll have all your top components, so your navigation and above, so navigation, your ribbon, the Office 365 bar, the sign-in information. That's all part of the master page at the top. And you can add in a footer at the bottom. And that master page will be displayed on every single page, and it's just the content that goes in between those two bits and pieces, and the page layout changes. You can create a page layout, and within that page layout, you can create multiple types of page layouts with different types of fields. So if you want to be able to create a specific type of article that displays information in a set way, so it has an image in the top left corner, text that goes around it, and then different bits of like search information that comes in below it, you can create multiple different types that people can use. So you can see over here, different types of page layouts can be applied to the same master page. And they all have different types of control fields with all the different zones where you can add in different information. Within the page layouts, you can also set how that information is displayed using search display templates. A display template will take information that's brought back by search queries and display it in a certain way depending on the type of content. So you can control everything. So if you have a little search bar that brings back all the users for your site, you can display it in a certain way in which it displays the user's picture, the contact details, and the link presence that can connect to it. Or if it's like products, for instance, in this image on the screen, you can see it all gets displayed in a very different way because it's a different type of content that's being displayed. So you have all these different ways of controlling how information gets displayed within itself, all the way from the master page down to the specific content that you're trying to surface. Things also can be included in here would be, for instance, how you display news articles. It's quite often you'll go onto a web page and you'll see that the top 3 latest articles are being displayed in an image carousel. So it flips between 3 different images, and it's got a headline feature. And then next to that, you probably usually have like or the top 10 other articles. And essentially the web parts are the same. It's just a search web part bringing back information, and it's just being displayed in different ways. Now, the biggest tool that you'll use in SharePoint Publishing is the Design Manager. And the Design Manager is a step-by-step process that allows you to upload and essentially manage how you publish everything out. It enables step-by-step approach for creating design assets in the web development tool of your choice. So you can create an HTML site, you can plan out your branding, for instance. So you can have a designer create an image, and then it can be passed on to a web developer who creates the HTML for it with all the JavaScript that goes with that. And then the design manager imports all that information with all those files, and then you replace it using snippets to create your actual master page. So the whole process doesn't rely on a single person knowing how to design specifically in SharePoint. You can use your favorite tools to create your brand assets, and SharePoint will import all that information quite quickly and easily. After you finish designing your site, you can choose to export the package using the Design Manager. That exports it in a single .wsp file called the design package. And then this one can be imported into any sort of other publishing site, and it will automatically just replace the design for that site, regardless of what content is already in there. Now, when you export a design package, it automatically packages all of the content that you've added or changed. So the master page gallery, the style library, the theme gallery, and the device channels list, and the page content types all go into that design package. So it gives you this one place to create a full bespoke design, and that can then be deployed across all your different site collections. Now I mentioned device channels. Device channels are a very interesting way of controlling how the information gets displayed. By using device channels, you can target different designs to different devices, such as a Windows phone, an iPhone, or a tablet, or a group of devices, so all types of smartphones or all tablets. You can also use channels on master pages. So if you have a master page that can accommodate two different devices or two different browsers with only minimal changes, you can use the channel panels to hold the content on the master page that's specific to each of those devices. That way, when the device comes on, the master page recognizes which device it is being used to view it, and it displays the information as you want it to be shown. And you can accomplish a great deal using only just the CSS. It's possible for the master pages for two different channels to be identical, except that they're linked to two different style sheets. So a phone would have a different style sheet as opposed to a desktop, and then it'll arrange the information and display the information in a completely different way, but it's all coming from the same master page. You can also use a channel panel inside each item display template of a content search web pod to display additional managed properties for that item from the catalog, only for desktops and not for phones. Most common scenario for using channel panels is to selectively include parts of a page layout for specific channels. You may have a page layout with separate text fields for a long greeting and a short greeting. By using the device channel, you can display the short greeting only to phones and the long greeting only to desktops. So it saves you from overloading a smaller real estate with too much information. But a desktop, which has a bigger screen, can take a lot more information, that can show all the information. So device channels are very, very handy for doing that. SharePoint publishing has its own site columns. Three of the main ones are the page content type, the scheduling start date, and scheduling end date. These are added to the site collection, and in the pages library I'll show you in a minute, you'll see these in action where it'll display the different types of content that you're using for each different article. Scheduling start dates and end dates are pretty self-explanatory, but essentially it means that you can produce an article or piece of content, set it off for approval, and it'll only be displayed from the scheduling start date, and when it hits the end date, the system automatically stops it from being displayed. You also get new content types that get dropped in. The page layout content type is a big one. This harks back to the page layouts I was talking about earlier. So you can have a specific item and you can change that item within itself, but it'll have different types of page layouts that you can use to display the information. You also get an article page and an enterprise wiki page, and these are just have different ways of displaying information in very quick and easy ways. Now, there's two special web parts that come with the publishing features. First one I've got up here is our content query web pod. This one's very useful for displaying information held within a site. I've given you just what the edit panel looks like over here. So you can say you can either show all items from the site, or you can show specific items from within a sub-site, or you can show specific types of items. You can even point it at a list itself. And then from there you can use the grouping, sorting, and apply styles to it. So you can use the CSS styles to display the information in a very specific way. This is very good for targeting information within a specific site or site collection and putting that information up. This type of web part will be used to display list information, latest documents that have come in, anything that's very specific to that site that as it comes in you want to show it. The next one is the content search web part. Now this one ties in with the enterprise search engine. And so you can set it to run specific queries. My example earlier was displaying a list of people. So if you had a department site for IT and you wanted all users to go onto that site to see who all the different users or the different people are who belong to that site, along with their contact details, you can use the search web part, the content search web part, to build a query that looks at all the people and it's filtered specifically to people within IT, and then displays it using one of the style sheets in a manner that you want it to show. So it just shows the information of the users itself. The pages library. This is a library that gets created and it stores all the web pages that are created on the site. And allows you to work with that information a lot more, control actually the pages itself. Within the pages library, you'll find the actual extra columns that we mentioned earlier. You can see the page layout on the screen over there. And the scheduling start and end dates will be added on if they become active. You can add special rules in over here so that if information gets created, it automatically gets created in the pages library and they get shunted off to a subfolder or a different area depending on where you want the information to be stored. So it just becomes a central holding library for your pages in SharePoint. The page editing menus are included. I think everybody's actually used SharePoint 2013 to be quite familiar with these. But just to go through, it gives you a WYSIWYG way of adding information to your article. So when you create an article, you'll create it within SharePoint in the browser, and allows you to use different styles. So you can set up your paragraph, your headings, according to your company styles. There's a spell check for it. To people who are used to using HTML code, you can dive right into the actual source of it and arrange things as you want to. You can insert tables, pictures, and videos, and also other web parts within the page itself. And then the other functionality that comes with it, like saving it, checking the actual document in and out, and publishing the article, or if approval is in place, submitting the article for approval and being able to approve it. So everything can get approved within the article itself, within that ribbon, and holds all the information there. The approval workflow and scheduling. This comes actually back from 2010. An approval workflow lets authors route their content for review and approval before it's published. And the scheduling functionality lets authors specify when a piece of content should go live on the site and when it should expire. So this information can be set up quite quickly and easily in SharePoint over there. Literally just a tick of the box and then setting things up like who your approvers are and who's allowed to view the content. For sites that use multiple languages, you can set up variations. So the variation feature lets you create multilingual content and target it to specific audiences in different sites. It does this by copying content from a source variation site to each target variation site. So you'll have a central place where you create all the different variations, and then it pumps out the same content, but just using the different labels to actually to translate it. The translation can be done through the machine translation, or you can actually package the content for human translation. Then another really nice feature is object caching. The object cache reduces the amount of traffic between the web server and your SQL database by storing objects such as lists and libraries, site settings, and page layouts in memory on the front-end web server. So the page output cache stores the rendered output of the page and uses cache profiles that specify how long items should be held in the cache. And then the binary large object cache is disk-based cache for caching items such as frequently used images, audio, and video files, and other files that are used to display images such as your CSS and your JavaScript files. But essentially, it means that every time somebody looks at a page, especially if you've got a site that has a lot of traffic for viewing articles, it won't have to go back to the SQL Server every single time. It'll just cache it on a time set by yourself and refresh it every now and then with the latest information. And that'll speed up your publishing sites a lot more. Now with SharePoint publishing, we get different site collection templates. Now these are your big site collections. It's the holding site collections. The first off the bat is the publishing portal. Now you use it for an internet site or large internet portal site, and you can use distinctive branding to customize a site. Typically the site has many more readers than contributors. By default, the site collection template enables content approval, workflows, and a more formal controlled publishing process. It also lets you grant permission to anonymous users to view only content on pages. Anonymous users can't view SharePoint Server 2013 administrative pages such as the site settings page. So it gives you that ability to get people in to read information. It's very handy, like I said, for internet sites or the large portal sites where you want to get information out to your users but don't want them getting into the background. You can see it also has a nice little setup for you where the information architect can come up and set up all the site permissions, set the language settings, define the content type so you can bring in all the different types of information that's going to be coming in, set the navigation, and also customize the search center. So everything that you usually do, either from central admin or to the back end, can be controlled through this publishing portal. There's also a section specifically for the visual designer, and that'll link back again to the design the design manager that allows you to either import the package, configure image renditions. Image renditions are quite a nice little thing actually in SharePoint. And I'll quickly have a quick chat about that. Image renditions allows you to set specific display sizes for images. So if you have a very large image as the source original image and come in, you can set however many different types. If you want one to be cut down to a specific banner size, or if it's going to be a square image, what SharePoint does is it takes the original images and then cuts it however you need to do it, either compresses it, squeezes it, or crops it into those different image renditions. And then when you create a page, an article, and you say, all right, I'm going to need to add in an image for the header, you can say, this is the image I want, this is the image rendition I want to use, and it automatically sets everything up for you. Very, very handy. The next template is the Enterprise Wiki. It's built on the same architecture as a normal wiki in SharePoint, but it comes in with extra things like categories, page ratings, and comments. It allows you to build a full-on area for co-authoring of content, for discussions, and collaborating on projects. It's really good for like resource centers and pretty much troubleshooting areas. Our development department actually uses one for all issues that we raise regarding customers, any sort of extra ways that information gets done, pretty much holding and capturing knowledge for others to see and use, so that we don't have to try and find out information ourselves. If, for instance, something breaks in a specific way, we don't have to do the research to find that if somebody in the company already has done that work. The third one is the product catalog. Now, this is used for managing a library or list data that is shared as a catalog for cross-site collection publishing. I'll talk a bit more about cross-site collection publishing in a minute. But the catalog data is published to an internet-facing site using web parts and the search technology. So the catalog will hold all your information about products that you're selling or using, as it would be. The product catalog site will say, all right, this is the content that gets stored. These are all the common columns that we'll have. So size of product, the price of the product, any sort of extra bolt-ons that go with that product as a central part. And then what it does, it just pushes that to your external facing site, and search uses display templates to display the specific information that you want to use from that product catalog. So it's a central holding place. The site includes administration pages for managing faceted navigation for the catalog items too, so you can say how you need to be able to navigate through these areas, and as extra information gets added on or gets worked through, the actual navigation will change with that depending on how you set it up. Now lastly, we come to the SharePoint publishing methods. SharePoint server has two ways that you can make published content available to users: author in place and cross-site publishing. Now, author in place, you use a single site collection to author content, make it available to readers on your site. The content is branded by using the master pages and the page layouts on the same site, and approval and publishing workflows are used to submit pages for approval and then publish them for readers also in the same area. This is the primary publishing method that was available in SharePoint 2010, and is still used quite widely in 2013 if you've got a smaller intranet, a single area that's used for publishing. It pretty much just gives you the control of everything in one area. But sometimes your site will require you to have multiple site collections. Now, generally, site collections are held separate from each other, the navigation's separate from each other, but you still want to be able to push content across to all the different site collections. And you use authoring the site collection is used to hold the source content, and you contain catalogs and pages and lists that are indexed by the search system and made available to the publishing site collection. What you have is essentially a hub, a central publishing hub, and all your content will be added to this. So if you've got a site collection for each different department, and you have a single expenses form that needs to go out to all the different site collections, it gets loaded up into the actual publishing hub, all the different as a content web part or as a content type, and then all the different fields get added to it, and then you publish it in the actual hub. And what it does is it pushes it across to all the different site collections that are hooked into that hub. So it's a central place to publish everything across everywhere. Everything gets done through the authoring site collection or the hub. So the content will be branded and published by site by using master pages and page layouts, and all that information goes into the hub and then just gets pushed out. And that was a lot faster than I actually expected it to go through. But it's essentially, it gives you a big flavor of what publishing will do for you in SharePoint. All the different sets and sections, all the different features and everything that you get with it. Before we pop on just to the questions and answer section, we mentioned before that there was an incentive. We are offering a free audit to any of the people that have joined this webinar on your actual current SharePoint installation. What we'll be able to do is, with this audit, is just run a check and advise you of the number of content databases, the size of content databases, any sort of custom solutions that are already installed in place, the current patch and version, service account usage, a whole lot of information that would be quite useful to you just to give you an overview of your current tenant. Sometimes it's very easy to lose the big picture and not see where everything is. So feel free to contact us. I think we will be pushing this out to everybody that was out here today, just to let you know that this is available, just to give you a bit of information on your actual site and how it's being held. I'm going to jump back to Chris now so we can set up the Q&A section.
Q&A should be showing now, so if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to type away. You may need to select the Q&A tab on there, but yeah, if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask away. That's great. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate you attending today. As we said, everybody will be followed up in due course. This webinar is being recorded as well. So what we'll also do is provide you with a copy of the webinar. So you'll be emailed, but also contacted as well.
Julian has asked a question, what options do we have now for public sites in Office 365 now that Microsoft is dropping them? To be honest, I don't actually have an answer for you off the bat over here right now. I think just from history, we've never actually done a public-facing deployment using SharePoint for any of our customers. So I don't know if Microsoft is dropping it just due to pure use, or I don't know, but we can definitely look into it and get back to you and provide you with an answer.
From my point of view, from coming from a licensing and Microsoft relationship perspective, it is looking at third-party solutions. It's something that they have removed from SharePoint Online. They're not looking to provide as a service again. You can still use SharePoint for your customer-facing sites. It's just the fact that you will need to look at third-party hosting platforms, or even Azure, to really put that make that site available. If this is something of particular interest, we can have a separate conversation around that.
Azure is definitely picking up. I think there's a lot of work coming out of Azure that's becoming very, very useful. And I think hosting is definitely one of the ones that will be popping in.
Yeah, Microsoft are very much pushing Azure as a platform for web hosting. So I suspect that might have had something to do with the decision to take it off of SharePoint as a standard feature. But yeah, you can still use SharePoint for that external facing website, but unfortunately, it's not something that's free with SharePoint Online anymore, I'm afraid.
On a personal note, my MSDN account comes with a I think about £65 worth of free Azure processing on a monthly basis. So I actually host my own development for SharePoint within Azure. Chris has asked, you mentioned about managing structured navigation. Is this easy to change, and if necessary, change back? Switching the features on and then switching them off can sometimes be a little bit problematic depending if anything's been done while those features were switched on. But if you do switch it on and you want to mirror the way your navigation worked before, it's very, very quick and simple to use. It's the structured navigation is literally just switching between different points. And you can control it in your site settings, where you can actually say, I don't want to display this, I actually want to display this bits over here and here and here. You don't need to use the metadata navigation for it all completely. You can use it within the SharePoint site like you did with the actual top bar and the quick launch. So it's pretty much the same thing switched on with more ways to control it. No worries, Chris.
Do feel free to keep firing any specific questions that you have. Not necessarily to do with the call today, but any SharePoint questions you might have in general. We are here as a resource for you guys, so please do feel free to take full advantage of that fact. Thanks, Julian. So again, if any of you are interested in taking advantage of the audit that we're offering, do feel free to let me know. Or even for those of you that are already existing customers of Nexus, please feel free to contact your account manager or Adriano, and we can look to get this set up for you. Okay, thanks, Steve.